First go with the new system.
So, before we go into the meeting, I'll just say we have a new system. You'll hear the audio is a little bit more clear. I will give everybody a heads up. If you say something from your seat, we listen. It will be heard on the recording. So if you got something to say under your breath, just kind of keep it up here until you leave. I was sitting in the back, and we were whispering, and you can hear speakers everywhere. So no, talking out of turn or those types of things. And we just need everybody to silence their cell phones because it will pick up feedback.
They finished an hour ago, so it's a work in progress. So bear with us.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the July 13th, 2023 meeting of the West Hampton Beach Village Planning Board. I would ask you all to rise and salute the flag with the Pledge of Allegiance. With the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We'll start out this evening. We have two decisions. One on Osmar Properties, 103 Main Street.
Anybody here? I make a motion, we accept the decision as written.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Aye. And we have another decision on New York Cancer and Blood Specialist, 40 Main Street. Mr. Hume, you waive?
I make a motion, we accept the decision as written.
Second.
All in favor?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. On to the public hearing portion of our agenda. Number one, West Hampton Equity Group LLC, 122080 Montauk Highway and Old Riverhead Road. Mr. Hume?
Good evening. For the applicant, James M. Hume, 323 Middle Road, Hampton Beach. We're getting real close to the end here, I think. So just, a couple of issues that we've been banging around trying to get an answer to. The first one has to do with the park fee. When we present that portion of the project, I believe we'll be able to demonstrate that we are entitled to the 50% credit. But the question becomes credit towards what and how to calculate that fee. The plain reading of the code provides for a formula, but that formula starts with some type of valuation for the property, as you are well aware. We have made several attempts to find an appraiser who's willing to actually provide the appraisal that we need. And so far, we have not been able to find anybody who is willing to do it, including the entity that was, I don't want to say recommended by the village, but a name that was provided to us.
Suggested
By the village. Even though she apparently did some work on the Rogers Avenue project, she declined to render an opinion relative to this. But in looking at what was, I believe, done and accepted by Rogers is that she did sort of an appraisal, but the appraisal was based on the purchase price value, pretty much solely, as I understand it. And so if we compare and contrast the two projects, similar size, same number of market units, et cetera, there's a lot of similarities, including the purchase price. I do have a copy of our deed when we acquired the property.
What year?
2021, December 2021. So around the same time as I hope there's enough there. Around the same time that the Rogers folks were acquiring their property. And as I said, it came to a very similar value. So we wanted to have a discussion about using that number, the $4 million number, which does still produce a rather substantial fee for the village as far as a park fee goes.
But you're talking about 50% of that thing too, aren't we?
The 50% of a big number is still a big number, I think.
Nah, it's half that number.
It's not as big a number.
It's not, I would grant you that. But the value is the value, and it would seem to me that we're going to have an arm's length transaction, as was discussed, I'm sure, in the Rogers Avenue project, as reflected by the price paid, as reflected in the deed. That is some indication of value, and in the circumstance where we're having difficulty getting anybody to opine further than that,
think that you really should get an appraisal. I don't know whether, we really can't sit here and make a determination whether that's an arm's length transaction, whether it reflects market value at or about this time. Why don't you send me an email tomorrow? And I've used a couple of appraisers in connection with some condemnations I'm doing, not for the village. I might be able to get you somebody. I'll show you I'll give you the contact person at these places.
The other question I guess I would have in light of that is if we could convince the appraiser that did the Roger W. work to do the same thing for us. Would that be-
Is that Patty Parsons?
Yeah.
I haven't spoken to her in a long time. I've used her, but probably a decade ago. I could give her a call or send her an email and
She
see.
did not do a full appraisal. She took the transaction that the Rogers Avenue folks entered into and, maybe had, and looked at market trends since then, but the starting point was the purchase price. So, I don't know, perhaps
Yeah, I'll
your
read that.
influence, you might be able to
Yeah, I think
get her
that
to do
probably
something we couldn't.
either Tony or I will reach out to her. And Tony's been on trial all week. And, but I'll send you the names of at least 2 or 3 appraisal outfits and see whether you have luck with them or not.
I think the board
I'm not,
would like
I'm
to
not
see an
talking about a
appraisal.
particular form of appraisal, but I think we need something. I think the planning board would feel certainly better in light of the code to get a professional
Some,
determination.
maybe not a full blown, but some methodology other than us just saying, well, this is what it's sold for.
Then us having spent $4 million.
Could have been worse.
The waves of the real estate industry.
They are.
Jim, shoot me an email so that I'm getting old.
Yes,
as you know.
yes, I'll be all-
So,
So, marked another birthday myself, so.
Happy birthday,
Happy
Mr.
birthday,
Jim.
Jim.
A couple of other questions on the park fee though. Our understanding has been that the affordables are not included in the calculation, and I'm not sure that's universally agreed to. If you look at 197-80.3 sub S sub 3, that's the paragraph that gives people the 50% credit, up to 50% credit, but it also indicates that the park fee is not, the affordables are not included in the park fee calculation. So that we would be looking at a park fee for 38 units as opposed to the 45 units that will ultimately get built there. So if there could be some confirmation on that. And lastly, the code also provides for an opportunity to pay the park fee not all at once and not up front necessarily, but over time or in some particular pace. I suspect that this project is going to be built in phases, and I think the building inspector will be reviewing and issuing interim building permits as the project rolls forward. And so we're thinking in terms of maybe marrying the next permit to some fraction of the payment of that. So we're, not looking for an answer to that right now, but just wanted to open the concept and see if there's any strong feelings one way or the other.
I don't think we've ever done that, have we?
Well, you've only done this once, I think, in the history of the village, which is Rogers, and so you haven't really done it yet. I don't know if it's ever happened, but
Timber Ridge, the park fee, there was discussion because it kind of finished in '08. We had a crash, we didn't start building in 2012. We actually did do installments for that. I mean, we, previous boards did installments for the park fee. I'd have to do research to find out what the actual,
Did they have a phase, did Timber Ridge have a phasing plan, Riv, or was it just, I vaguely recall there was a construction phasing plan to some degree, but I can't remember if that was,
it was built before me,
I believe it was a
I had
phase.
some involvement with that.
because I think we kind of, that was because we
Phase
knew,
plan.
we knew it was gonna be built in phases.
Right.
So I think that was probably, if we did that with the park fee, that was probably why.
And that's likely what's going to happen here.
Right. You'll build the infrastructure and clubhouses, yada, yada, and then probably a model building. No, single phase.
Just, I guess, see how we did it with Timber Ridge and see if you could.
I can consult offline with the building inspector and we can come back with a proposal.
Sounds reasonable.
The other thing we wanted to get some guidance on is how to calculate the purchase price for the affordables. And I know if you look just at our village code as far as that goes, it's really not complete enough to be able to calculate the number. At some point, we're going to have to do an offering plan, and we're going to have to include in that offering plan the values that we put on those affordables. It's my understanding that there has been some discussion between the village and the town about that issue, but we're just trying to get some more detail about where that might be headed so that we can, start doing some math ourselves and see how that's going to work.
There was discussion with the town, both in terms of how we would alter the code and how it would be administered and who would administer it. But unfortunately, the pinch hitter tonight was not involved directly in those discussions. The person who's normally here was. So, yes, and I think you're right. I think we have to have that set relatively soon so that you can do your offering plan.
Well, that's, I think, really all I wanted tonight. Unless there's any other feedback that you'd like to share, we'll get to work on. I'll reach out to Steve tomorrow, and we'll see if we can't get something that looks like more than just a deed. So.
And when you get your stuff together, let us know, and we'll put you back on the agenda.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you,
Mr.
Mr.
Hume.
Have a good night.
Good evening. Number 2 on the agenda, West Hampton Property Management LLC, 141 Montauk Highway. Mr. Bennett, how are you?
Good evening, members of the board. My name is John Bennett. I represent the applicant and Rainer is with me this evening.
Just turn the microphone on. Is it green on top? Sorry. I don't know. I didn't think we needed it, but.
No, we do that to all the attorneys from the east of the canal.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Mike. Nothing like building up my confidence, I appreciate it. But in any event, so I'm with me this evening, as I said, is Vince Gaudiella, as well as Joseph Guerrero, who's the principal of all the Citarellas and the applicant. The last time we were here, we had a discussion about various coordination issues. Candidly, we were concerned about any sort of coordination, but I think we have come to a position on coordination with the lot to the east, which I believe might be on for discussion this evening as well. And we did submit that by hand delivery on June 30th, excuse me. So that's important. But before I ask Vince to come up and talk about that, because he's much more able to talk about the particulars of that being engineering issues. I just want to make sure that we're very anxious to get up and running, and I want to make sure we have this coordination issue cleared up before we proceed to both the Health Department and the Zoning Board of Appeals. So if there are any questions, obviously we're here to answer them, but we think we've come to a solution that net makes the most sense in terms of being consistent with the manner of operation that Mr. Guerrero has successfully employed in his various sites, but also meeting some of the concerns of the village in terms of coordination of access. So if it's okay, I would like to bring Vin up at this point.
I think the main discussion we had last time was certainly the plan early on was to have, for lack of a better word, a cut through, if you will, that went something from Sunset all the way through to Oak.
Yeah, we haven't provided that.
I know.
And
To be fair, after the last time we discussed this, I got my butt up there and I actually went and looked at it. I did not realize personally when we were discussing it how much deeper the western properties go as compared to the properties, this one and Marcus's property, and the properties and his one next to it, so that you would have to make a really wild S-turn to get from point A to point B. So for those reasons, not the concept of the general proposition, but for those practical reasons, I think we came to the conclusion that a full cut through was not appropriate for this particular property, but I do see that you indicate some cross-access with Marcus's property,
Marcus's property, yeah.
which would allow it to feed out onto Sunset, which is half a loaf is better than none.
Yeah, and I appreciate it. We thought from a site-specific point of view, although I understand the public goal, it just didn't, it was impractical. So, and I appreciate those comments, believe me, because I know it was a little, intense. But Vin, if you want to come up and explain it in more detail, I think that probably is the best next step.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Vincent Gaudiello. I'm a principal with the Rayner Group. I have been retained by the applicant to assist with the site civil engineering aspects of this project. About a month or so ago, Mr. Guerrera and Mr. Bennett contacted me about the project, saying, they were beyond the cross-access issues that was being discussed by the board, but the engineering matters relating to the comments offered by the village, by Mr. Hammond on both this application as well as 161 Montauk Highway. We sat down, we took those comments, we broke them down with respect to what the recommendations were of the staff. And in essence, where we are, we provided the village with what I would call an alignment plan, which identifies in essence what the improvements are that we are going to be proposing. The plans that were submitted are not fully engineered, and what I mean by that, they're more two-dimensional and not three-dimensional. But in essence, where we are right now is we're proposing to modify the entrance into the site in a manner that aligns with Hazelwood Avenue. That was a recommendation of the village engineer. And at that intersection, what you would be looking at is an entrance in and ultimately space for two exiting lanes, a lane that you could make a right and head eastbound onto Montauk Highway, or a lane that you could, in essence, go westbound or continue straight down Hazelwood. In addition to that, the alignment provides for a connection with the property to the east, 161 Montauk Highway. And the site plan that was, again, I haven't seen the most recent one, I'm not sure of, but in essence, the previous plan that was submitted, that curb alignment is exactly aligned. So there would be, in essence, a true transition from one site into the other. We do intend, or I do intend to sit and hear what is on for that application after this, but it is our intentions to sit down with that project sponsor, that owner as well, and work through the details of this. Obviously, Mr. Guerrera is the applicant here. He is not the property owner, so any type of cross-access agreement ultimately is going to come from the owner of the property, who's also present with us today. Our alignment plan provides for 37 spaces. They all meet the minimum requirement of the 9 by 18 stalls. In addition to that, the aisle widths that we're providing, the minimum requirement is 24. We're proposing 26. We feel that'll give us a little bit more maneuverability in our parking lot, especially with the vehicles we see around here in the summertime. These extended Denali's and XL Yukons, trying to give everyone as much room as we possibly can.
Where are your deliveries going? And how are you gonna make those happen with a big truck?
The deliveries, in essence, would likely, the trucks would come in through Montauk Highway. They'd circle in front of the building. They would, in essence, position themselves towards the east and then have the ability to back into that back area of our site. With our next submission, I'd gladly provide a truck turning radius on our plans.
I think
to
Ron Hill's
demonstrate how-
Ron Hill's definitely gonna wanna see that.
So we'll be able to do that.
Terribly sorry, but just make sure, you can see the Citarella trucks going back and forth from New York to the east end, they're all box trucks.
Understood.
We do not anticipate using tractor trailers.
Understood.
But by all means, whatever Ron would like as far as the model of the truck that we use or it's typical for us, we will most certainly show that. So with respect to what I mentioned about the improvements, in addition to the access, we are proposing sidewalk and curb along Montauk Highway. We will be required to make an application to Suffolk County DPW, and we've already had preliminary conversations with them. With respect to the sanitary system on the site, we will make application to the health department with respect to the sanitary facilities for this site. We have had some preliminary discussions with them. Unfortunately, they have no record of the sanitary system that exists on that property. Just to give you an idea of how long this place has been.
Should have paid that computer ransom.
So, I really think the purpose of our discussion today and us being here was to resolve more or less the alignment of what we're proposing here, where you would expect cross-access, how many parking spaces we're proposing, the improvements within the right-of-way, the improvements associated with upgrading the sanitary system, and the connection with the property.
Question for you. Have you been in contact with the property owner on the east side yet?
The owner of our property has been in contact with the.
Because I know that owner had said that he has, and this is weeks ago, has not heard from anybody yet.
I
don't know if
I
that's
personally have not, the owner basically of the property maybe can contest to that.
But you indicated that you were
We would have all-
you're going to have or anticipate having some coordination, for lack of a better word, a coordination maybe with
I
them.
see no reason, or I see no other reason or other avenue that this board really could take without us two working together.
Right.
I mean, that's the bottom line.
That's why I asked.
What I did is I took the comments that were previously issued by the board for 1-61. I've had some discussions with with Brad Hammond. I think our next step before we actually start engineering this thing would be to sit down with them and.
Yeah, I think you have to have a conceptualized site plan side by side.
Yeah,
So you know what you're dealing with, for both of you, frankly.
Yeah.
I mean, the only concern, and this I would want to hear, would want to hear Ron's comments, is the access out onto Montauk, the left turns in particular.
Right.
Trying to make that left turn across traffic, especially at certain times of the year. And then even straight, because we've had issues with feeding commercial traffic onto Hazelwood and Rogers. Those are residential streets, and we would want to, so I would want to look at a right turn only out. And if somebody would want to go left, they could go behind through the cross access out to Sunset and then make the left from the stop sign to head back that way. It's something to look at. It's just in terms of, because it's a conflict point with traffic, and we're always trying to reduce those as best we can.
In us aligning with Hazelwood, that's primary one of the objectives in aligning with Hazelwood.
Understood.
I gladly sit down with Ron Hill and talk about that. My only concern is that, you're taking all the burden of people that are traveling westbound and bringing them through
Understood.
two other parcels and forcing them now to go to Sunset to do that.
I appreciate it. And that, like I said, we know we're in a conceptual phase right here. That was the only thing that jumped out at me. Otherwise, I think this is a vast improvement over what we were looking at earlier.
We will also be subject to the comments of DPW on that also.
But I'm curious to see what Ron would have to say. He may,
And the residents of Hazelwood,
of course.
who, as you know, with the project at the end of their block, have got a lot to say about traffic on Hazelwood.
We want to give someone the ability, again, to the local person who understands the traffic flow around here in the summertime, being able to outlet onto Sunset is a home run. But,
Right.
to the person now who, may be coming to town to go to the beach for the day and knows that Cinderella's is there and they want to get a sandwich and bring it to the beach, they're not as familiar with Sunset. And part of, keeping the circulation within the parking lot is not having people driving around trying to figure out how to get off your property.
Well, I mean, they
Obviously,
still
signage
have a
would be
right turn out. It's not that we're making it a one-way.
But when their GPS is telling them to make a left and go down Oak, and that's the way to kind of get to Cubsaw Beach, we've got, again,
All right.
there are avenues here. We will speak with Ron. We'll get the
That's all I ask.
recommendations of DPW as well. So if the board has any further questions.
Did anything
please.
else jump out at anybody there?
No, I think you did a great job with the revision.
Infinitely better.
Yeah.
Just that one issue we resolved in terms of traffic, I think,
Yep.
let the engineers do what they do.
Very helpful.
Okay. The owner want to say anything? Are you good to go?
He's very interested in moving things. along.
Understood.
So that's-
Does anybody from the audience have anything to say on this project?
A word right out of my mouth.
George, you've got nothing?
Nothing?
We're next, aren't we?
Characteristically, not yet, not for you. Closed mouth he is. All right, so what do we do with him? We're not waiting.
Develop the site plan, work with Ron, do a landscape lighting plan,
You know what, sort out
the
the
DPW.
the turning issues with Ron to a degree so that he's can give you guidance as to where to go. Then you'll know whether to develop your plans more.
You don't have any problem with this, filing with ZBA now?
That's what I was gonna get to. They have a zoning board application they have to make,
Yeah.
and so if we're conceptually okay with this,
Other than the turning issue, I don't see a problem.
no other variances have
No.
been illuminated from this plan's revision, so I think we should be okay to
No.
now send them to the zoning board.
Make use of the time.
We do have to talk about super though, because we're gonna need to do that for either or.
Let's do that. Is the addition, how big is the addition? Do I was more than 4,000
The
square feet?
building's over 5,000, the addition's not over 4,000. We have one.
No, it's not.
Well, I'm gonna be very,
Everything is less than 5,000.
very, very direct about that. I don't see how you escape that being a type 2 action. It's a addition of less than 4,000 square feet to an existing commercial facility. I'm assuming it's less than 4,000, the addition, Joe.
The addition's less than 4,000. But
1666.
Okay.
But that, with the building, it's still less than 5.
Okay, all right. So, but this secret says an addition of less than 4,000 square feet to a non-residential building is a type 2 action.
So you could start with the health department and the interim as well.
Although, having said that, I may need a letter from you, because the health department doesn't mind to read the law, they just want something from you, so, thank you.
We can start, we can go to the zoning board.
So when you're done with the zoning board, do you want to get done with them before you come back?
No, I wanna move on a parallel basis, yeah.
All right, so go do it with them, coordinate with Ron on the engineering aspects of it, and once you get that sort of boxed in,
We're gonna need, this board has an interesting code where you're required to have health department approval before you can get site approval.
right.
I've only been trying to get that
At the
changed.
health department, if you're required to have a variance, they're not gonna issue you health department approval until you get your variance from the village. So there's a lot of moving parts here, and we'll do our best.
Work on the variance, obviously, because that's gonna be the tripwire, but also at the same time, since we're okay with the general layout, but for maybe a very minor technical issue, I don't think anything prevents you from engineering the rest of it.
I think we'll go chew on the intersection at Hazelwood and our access onto Montauk Highway as equal, as important.
Like I said, just coordinate with Ron, because we're gonna need his comments anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Again, thank you for the good revisions.
Excellent.
Nice.
Thank you so much. So we'll see when you have something to discuss substantively.
Just leave it on.
We don't hold over anymore.
Okay.
So we'll just leave it on, and what will happen is when we receive a submission from you, you'll go on the next calendar within 10 days. But
We
you
don't-
can call me tomorrow, we'll work at the zoning board.
Excellent, okay, excellent.
We don't do holdovers per se anymore.
No, I noticed that on your calendar, yeah, exactly. It makes sense.
Yeah. So we will see you next time you have something to discuss. Thank you.
We do a referral, does ZBA do a referral to the planning board?
I have everything we need.
Thanks.
You're good.
Thank you. Excellent.
Just
All right.
contact, send me an email or something that's requesting the denial officially.
Excellent.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Number 3, 161 Montauk Highway LLC.
Very good, yourself.
Stingy.
How are you doing today?
That's what the police wanted to know when you walked in.
Wait a minute, is it ticking?
Marcus Stinchi, the owner of 161 Montauk Highway, just for the record, I'm also the owner of 171 Montauk Highway, which we'll get to why I'm mentioning that. Which is the cross access. Where would you like to start, gentlemen?
It's your floor right now.
What's your good idea?
Yeah. We're all ears.
I submitted my ideas.
I think all the
What would
parties
you
are
like to
present.
do? I mean, I think at this point, the two parcels have to be looked at individually. You know, my neighbor to the west proposed what he's proposed. I mean, frankly, has nothing to do with me except for the cross access.
We're assuming that you guys are gonna talk together.
Well, we haven't, so.
well, since everybody's here, it makes
Well, I
sense.
think now is the time.
No,
Well, what I'm saying is at least you guys talk,
First of all,
make an arrangement to get
second
this
of all,
straightened out.
where's the village engineer? And where's the comments? You know, I got this 2 weeks ago, and my project is being held up for their project, which is not fair. And there's been no comments, what he thinks of their plan and my plan, if it's independent, if they, what he want from me. So now we're here, and we're gonna be held over for more comments, which is not fair. I submitted a, you know, as accurate and complete of a plan, as I possibly could, without comments. I called Megan, emailed Megan a couple of days ago and said, where's the comments? She said, there is no comments. So there's no comments on the neighboring property. There's no comments on mine. There's no direction on where we could have gone. I would have been here tonight with a complete set of plans, saying, here we go, let's go.
Well, I think now, yeah, I appreciate that there was some, perhaps a lack of communication, at least initially between the two property owners initially, and then maybe we were kind of waiting on to see where you guys were at, if you were gonna work together or if you weren't gonna work together. Plus, once, we thought this full cross-access was gonna be something that was gonna happen, and once upon further review, it clearly doesn't work from a practical point of view.
I mean, I could argue that it wasn't practical for me to do it on 171 or 161 either.
Appreciate that.
But I was asked to do it, and I made it happen, because that I thought was part of the master plan, to have access go straight through. So if we're not doing it, well, let's close up 171 and 161, and everybody can do their own thing. Either we're working together or we're not. You know, to say that you can't do it, you know, it's not accurate. It doesn't work for them, so they're not doing it.
Well, it's actually.
Which, again, listen, this has nothing to do with their application, it has to do with my application, what I've been required to do, what I've been asked to do, and I've done it. Whether it's on this property or the other 5 properties that I own in the village.
This particular alignment of properties, I don't think we appreciated how it was impractical until it was looked at
It's
again.
not practical from 171 to Larry Schaefer's property either, where it's not even 24 feet. It was allowed to be 20 feet because he had a shed there 25 years ago. But it was required of me at great expense to do it. You know, these covenants and restrictions are not cheap to, you know, cost me thousands and thousands of dollars. Engineers and architects and covenants and restrictions. So again, it's are we gonna be the same with every applicant, or are we looking at each case individually?
Well, I think in this particular case, specifically because you're both looking to develop adjacent properties simultaneously, obviously it's in the best interest of everybody to have a joint, not a joint, but a parallel review process.
I don't disagree, but at this point, they've submitted, I've submitted, I'm not sure what besides the cross-access in between the two of us, the sidewalks are gonna be what they're gonna be. County's gonna dictate where they're gonna go, of course, we're gonna join them together. Other than that, I'm not sure what you're asking of us.
I don't want to interrupt. Can I comment?
Absolutely.
When do you think it's appropriate?
Well,
When do you think it's appropriate?
Mr. Stinchi is seated.
Brad, do you have something to say on
I'm
this?
just confused. What is the question? I'm sorry. Marcus.
Where's Ron, number 1?
Where are the comments?
Well, there's no question, they're all.
You did a copy of their submission, correct?
I did, and I was
It's
surprised.
not gonna work with your plan as you.
It works beautifully with my plan. It's just independent. It's
I don't know
fine.
what we're
It's
on.
not a problem. No problem at all. My issue is, why are we here and the engineer isn't here with no comments? And if he wasn't gonna be here tonight, why didn't he send comments to Mr. Bennett and myself, so we could say tonight, hey, John, does that work for you? Does it work for me? It works great. We're in the elevator together, done deal, you know? So it's costly them. Listen, I would love to see Citarella here, by the way. I'm a big supporter of it. I shop there. I think it's terrific. Nothing aside from what I'm saying. But that said, you know, how do we move forward here?
I think you've heard today, we moved forward in a great deal, because the last meeting, there was gonna be no cross-access, which.
No, what I heard was, you're good with what he proposed, but where does that leave me?
I think we have a solution for you as well.
I'd like to hear it.
I thought I communicated that to you a few weeks ago.
What was the solution?
Well, your concept to have joint ingress and egress on the west side of the property, you can do the same thing with yourself on the east side of the property.
Well, there's a lot of reasons why we proposed what we did, and I'm not looking to have a commercial entrance in between the two buildings.
The east side of the property lines with Pine, you own both properties, you give yourself the same cross-access, and now you can get into the wine store and out of the wine store a lot easier.
Again, like this board would say, you know, you're hitting me with this tonight, and, you know, I'm not prepared to.
But I think it's completely.
If those were comments from the engineer, and we had them a week ago, perhaps we could have had a decision
The
tonight.
engineer's not here tonight, so I can't speak for
I
him.
noticed.
There's a big difference between that narrow wine store property that had a building existing, having a two-way exit, which you couldn't possibly do, and there was an addition proposed, versus these two lots that are much wider and have the ability to have ingress and egress within the lot. So,
And then
I apologize for Ron not being here. I'm sure he will have comments. I think we've moved a great deal forward with the Westerly property. It sounds like they want to communicate and work with you, and I think we're moving in the right direction. I did issue comments. There are other things in the site plan that you could work on. We also have to do secret on your plan.
Vero, please.
Nicholas Farrow, Architect, 120 Mill Road, for Marcus. I think what Marcus is trying to say at this point is that now the onus is on us to redesign our project, okay, to accommodate the site plan that was given. Originally, we were trying to work together with that common driveway. We listened to the comments that Ron had, but again, he made comments without the other applicant being here before the last time we were here. So I think the problem with that is now there's no coordination. I think that's Marcus's frustration, is that
It's,
now.
it's incredibly frustrating. We have been waiting
Understood.
as well.
And again,
So,
we understand
you
that,
know where Ron is, you know you have his phone number.
of course, but we thought that, like everything else.
You guys could probably get more done in a week.
That's right.
But, you know, it's not our responsibility.
No, it's not your responsibility, but if you want to move things forward
Which we do.
quicker than coming back here every 2 weeks, then that would be a way to move things forward so that we have something to chew on. I appreciate that Ron's not here. I appreciate you don't have any comments. I don't have an explanation for it, but it's where we're at.
Absolutely, but I think that's Marcus's frustration. So we've had this, we've had a plan now for a couple of weeks with no additional comments on our site plan either. As to, hey, guys, they got this, we have this, now, we have this from this applicant, how do you wanna come back to us and respond to us, without having any other comments? from
Which
them?
is redesign our whole site plan.
Just redesign the whole site, and I am in the health department right now, so, which means a redesign going back into the health department too, so. Again, no issue on my end as a design professional, but obviously I have a frustrated client right now because of that. I think that's what Marcus is trying to say. So.
And rightfully, we're always frustrated when one of our experts is absent without leave.
So, I mean,
What else could I do for you this evening?
Accept our apology and rest assured that,
My frustration is not at the board, it's at the lack of comments, and the lack of.
we'll do everything we can to expedite those.
Much appreciated, Rob. Thank you. I'm anxious to hear what Mr. Dunn has to say.
Yeah, thanks.
If I have what's to say.
Yeah,
but he gets paid.
One of.
I think one of the things is a bit of a chicken and egg thing that happened here. We didn't know. We thought that the coordination between the east property and the west property made the most sense, but we wanted to make sure that this board was happy with through coordination. It appears they are, but we didn't want to be presumptuous until we knew what this board was going to say. So now I think we do know, and we'll engage fully. Absolutely. And I'm sorry for any delay. I don't know that we could have done anything else other than make sure that the board was happy with this plan before we fully engaged Marcus. That's all. And that sounds like a lawyer's dodge by me. It's just I had to make sure that this board was happy with the site plan conceptually and generally before before we move forward, but now we have everybody here, we're fully engaged, everybody wants to get going. But more than anything, Joe wants to get up and open for business, so.
And we want them to.
Yeah.
And you too.
Because once we get this done, except for the hardware, the old hardware store, we've got that section of town all taken care of. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, we didn't see you
I'm sorry,
sitting-
Jeff. That wasn't intentional, mind you.
Thank you. And again, our
Yeah,
apologies.
sorry, Marcus, but we'll see if we can kind of put the gas on this a little bit.
Please.
Jeff is here for an extension that I inadvertently.
Well, Jeff's property,
I'm not here about that, I'm gonna talk about the cross access.
what, you want to talk about
Hold on,
it?
Vinny, hold on.
Go talk, go talk. Make it a full,
Jefferson Murphy, I represent 133 West Montauk Highway, the former hardware store site. The owner is here this evening, and he's also supervised with this whole discussion about cross-access. This was a long discussion with you back when we did our site plan approval over 5 years ago. And I actually presented a cross-access plan from Oak Street all the way over to Sunset. And we gave up parking spaces, and we actually have a dedicated cross-access easement filed on our property.
well, as I indicated before, I guess it was never brought to our attention by anyone, frankly, that to accomplish the full through required a very strange and very unsafe turn. But the idea itself has a lot of merit because we can still funnel traffic out to Oak and out to Sunset and relieve some of the burden on Montauk Highway. Even though it doesn't go all the way through, there's still a practical result that it does ease the traffic issues.
So is there still cross-access between my client's property and to the property to the east?
To the west.
You will go, the cross access from your properties will funnel just out to Oak. And from Cinderella's, at least in theory, if it works out the way, it'll funnel out to Sunset the other way. So
I'm just giving a copy of their plan for the first time, so we'll take a look.
there just won't be a connection in the middle.
I'll take a look.
Just because we didn't, the properties are different depths. We didn't realize that at the time.
Yeah, it's not gonna be a straight shot over through, it's gonna be kind of.
There's a weird,
No, it's not gonna be.
Very-
Be able to drive from Sunset. Right.
if we wanted to, if we tried to impose that, it would probably be more dangerous than it's worth.
Okay, we'll take a look at this. If we have any questions, I'll reach out to Brad and to Mr. Bennett and the others.
Yeah, you can.
It's a free-for-all, let's go.
So I think what would be helpful is an overlay from Sunset to Oak. So you can see where the cross accesses are now and where they would be proposed.
And that's what I realized we needed 2 months ago. When I went out there to take a look at it, and I actually saw physically, I said, this would have been extremely helpful when the whole concept of the cross-access was being discussed in past years.
Well, yeah, in a perfect world, you have a master plan that had an overlay, so when people come in, they would say, oh, okay, this is where we'd like it to be, and you develop as you go along.
Regrettably, Kyle Collins' work did not include these sites.
So the neighbor of my other property, 171, Larry Schaefer. So that's a complete zigzag through there. From Sunset to my property in 171 is a zigzag, and then from mine, we tried to straighten it out the best that we could, but from 171 to 161 is 24 feet. As I mentioned earlier, it's 20 feet from my property to Schaefer's, because for whatever reason, somebody said, it's okay, we'll make it 20, instead of saying, we're gonna make your shed your garage is there, and if you ever remove it, then that's gotta be widened.
Well, ultimately, somebody's going to be purchasing that property. Larry's not going to develop that.
That price I'm not so sure about. And then the other issue is you have fire access. You have a problem getting the fire truck in and out. I don't want to get off topic, but it all ends up to be about cross access. And if you're going to do it for one, you got to do it for everybody. And to say that you cannot do it on 141 is not true. You absolutely can do it, and it's completely consistent with how it's been done all over the place.
Well, I would suggest.
Is it convenient? No, it wasn't convenient for me either, but I did it because I was asked to do it.
I appreciate, we all appreciate that.
Well, take that into
I
consideration
am
when
taking-
you're looking at the 141
We are.
application.
But I think that
Don't be so quick to say, okay, he's gonna have a
it's
freezer,
not
he's
that.
gonna have a
John,
walk-in.
it's not
He doesn't have
that.
to have a walk-in, like you don't need a swimming pool, you don't need a tennis court.
It's not that, but when we had the last meeting, when Ron was here, Ron even referenced it at the time, that he didn't think from an engineering perspective it worked. Now, at the time that we were doing with your property and the adjacent properties, I'm assuming between him and Kyle, he said it would work. So we relied upon their expertise.
But again, to your point,
Turn the walk-in so it's not connected to the building, which isn't convenient, and then you'd be able to have the cross-access.
Hey,
again, I think we should
Not
have
sure about
Ron.
Possible.
I'm not
If you
sure.
want to decide as a board that you don't want to do that, that's your prerogative. I'm just telling you, I'm not happy about it because I had to do it. I don't care whether they have cross-access or not. To me, I'm not, I don't care about cross-access or not. It's that I was required to do it on two of my properties at great expense. Cost me over $4,000 just to get the covenants and restrictions done, between the lawyer fees, the recording, all this.
Well, Nick's
It's
gonna offer a
expensive.
discount.
Nick doesn't do it. He needs an attorney. John Bennett.
I mean, we're all ears.
Oh,
I
no.
mean, if anybody has an idea that would show how this would work, we're all
I
ears.
just gave you an idea.
I got, Marcus, are you telling me, because even though you're saying you're talking out of both sides of your mouth, Marcus, I've known you for a long time. You're saying, no, you don't care about cross access, but you're sort of
No,
penciling.
I don't care about it. I never cared about it. I never cared
So
about
then
it
why do you care about it now?
when I was told I had to do it.
Okay, but you
So
have to do
why
it because it
do
makes
I
sense
have
in your
to do it and somebody else does it?
Because you just don't take a thing and chop it, and you don't take a concept and jam it into every property. Just because it works on some
They
properties.
did it, they did it
Yeah,
on.
guys,
You should have had.
Gentlemen,
Hold on.
gentlemen, you want to talk to me, talk to the board, that's one thing. You want to talk to each other?
Okay.
Anytime you want.
To your point though, just because it works on one property doesn't mean it works on all. And some cross-access concepts simply don't work. And I think what I'm hearing, understandably, it's a human response. Well, I had to do it on my property. Well, maybe the information before the board and what was presented candidly by you, Marcus, and your people, and looked at by the engineer and the planners weren't as thorough. It wasn't like they just said, don't worry about it. We've had quite a few meetings and had different iterations of this, and it simply doesn't make sense. And I think that the fact that you had to do it in certain circumstances doesn't mean that we have to do it. You just said you didn't care about it. And I
So
think,
why don't, why,
But it's a requirement.
it's not a
It's
requirement.
a requirement.
No, it's not a
gentlemen,
requirement.
Guys,
gentlemen,
we're
we're
not.
not gonna just-
If I may.
what, I think we were okay on a good note there for a second. You guys were gonna go talk and have a
This is what
conversation.
happens when, when I call the attorney.
You should go talk. You should go talk.
And there's no discussion.
Gentlemen.
We ended on a good note. and then
John, time out.
property owners-
John and Marcus, can we just pause for a minute?
That's really what should happen.
Why don't you contact me tomorrow, you contact me tomorrow, or Nick? I'll reach out to Ron. If Britton wants to be there, we can set up a meeting of the minds and everybody can talk about this. If you don't need us, then don't involve us, but if you do need us, please involve us. Otherwise,
Depending on what you reach, you may not have to re-engineer it as much as you think, you know? We appreciate the frustration, Marcus, we do, we get it.
We're gonna talk.
I'm happy with mine the way it is, just like he's happy with his, so treat them individually. I like the entrance, the exit the way they are. That's it.
So go sort it out. If you can't agree to disagree or agree at
I'll
all,
give you the
you sort
cross
it out.
access.
We'll sort it out.
Sort it out and come back and tell us what you've sorted out. Thank you. All right, when you get something, hey, you're either gonna agree or you're not, and then you come back and do what you want, and we'll see where it takes us, you know? I can't make, listen, we can't make you propose something that you don't wanna do. Can't make you do it. You propose what you propose, and then we talk.
For the record, I'm happy with my plan the way it is. So I appreciate the comments. Thank you. I'm happy with the plan the way it is. I do not want to re-engineer it.
Okay.
I'm I'm happy with the in and the out the way that they are.
Have your conversations, whatever they may be, with the neighbor to your west, and Ron, and come back and let us know where we're at. And then we know what we're dealing with.
You can fix this.
Good, perfect, thank you, gentlemen. Have a lovely afternoon. Well, almost evening, it's still afternoon.
Nick, I have a lot of faith.
Okay. I see a lot of the same faces, so we must be talking about 32 Mill Road. Okay, before we get started, there was a lot of conversation, there was a lot of things said last time. The board had kind of said we were gonna let people say what they want to say, let them get it out on the floor, because there's a lot of things going on with this property. But tonight, I really want to not discuss enforcement issues. I want to discuss what's being proposed. We are a planning board. So I just want to, Erin, you have given us a lot of material. I want you to explain as best you can, and there'll be questions, I'm sure. But explain as best you can what you have, what you're proposing to do, and how you're going to do it. And if we could just keep it to that, I think that we would actually get somewhere with this proposal.
Also, there's a bunch of empty seats. If people want to come in and take a seat, now's your time. There's like there's 3 up here, a couple in the audience. You won't want to stand in the waiting room. We're gonna follow the same rules as we did last time. Erin's gonna make her presentation. The board will engage in a conversation with her. We'll open the public hearing up for public comment. At that time, one person can speak at a time. Again, like we said last time, everybody will get to talk. As the chairman just said, we're not gonna go into enforcement issues. We're just gonna talk about the site plan. You're welcome to send things in writing. And we're not gonna do what just happened and go back and forth. We're gonna, not do that.
No riotous behavior.
Yes, please. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so that being said, I'm pretty sure I supplied everything to you that, you had asked of me. I appreciate the fact that I've gotten not 1, but 2, but 3 feedbacks from village planner and from village engineer so that I can answer and supply more information. I believe, unless I'm mistaken, that you have everything that you've possibly asked for. I've complied with everything that you've asked for. I think I've answered all of your questions. I'm happy to go through the 3 letters of feedback if necessary. I just don't know if you want to go back through all 3 of those or only the most recent from yesterday.
Why don't we just cut, let's get back to, I think just if we narrow the scope, that we narrow the issues.
Yep.
As I understand it, you have approved use of 15 seats right now.
Correct.
You want to take 8 of them, move them upstairs,
Correct.
so that there will be 7 seats permanently on the first floor,
Correct.
8 seats permanently on the second floor,
Correct.
and that's all there will ever be, unless you come back and ask for permission.
Correct.
Okay. And you are proposing to have your existing use downstairs and this, I'm not sure what we call it. It's, because we can't have 2 uses on
Not
that
another
property.
use.
That's why
Alternative
that's another what we're trying to do. It's an adjunct to your existing use.
Correct.
Okay. Will the operations on the first floor be ceased and done when there's operations on the second floor and vice versa? Or will there be an overlap, and how are you gonna manage that?
Overlap of a half an hour on 2 nights a week.
Because that
The
will,
downstairs market is still open, not the dining room, because no one's eating lunch.
that
at
will
that point.
affect your parking considerations to some degree, right? If they're
It is
both
a-
open, I'm not
well-
sure how that works.
If you want to look at it as closing the dining room so that there is no overlap, because no one obviously is eating in the dining room at 5:30. The store is open, the market is open until 6 o'clock on Fridays and Saturdays. The dining room upstairs would be open at, I just have to look at the times properly, at 5:30.
I guess we just,
But the
one,
dining room downstairs is not in use at that time.
one of the things we're looking at and obviously concerned at is not to have both the first and second floor operating for any real length of time at the same time,
There is
because,
no length of time.
so in terms of employee load, how's that gonna work?
So I did submit a narrative today, that explains the employee load.
As best you can.
Sure. In the morning, a couple people come in to open. During the rush, just like any other food establishment, we have our most employees during the middle of the day. I would tell you from up to 7. I would tell you from 12 to say 3. At that point, the morning shift is leaving. Obviously, most of these are kids. They can't work more than 8 hours. Some of them are not actually allowed to work more than 6 hours. They are leaving, and then the night staff is coming in, and then at about 6:30, the remaining day staff is actually leaving as well. Then you are down to only 4. So your biggest points are 7 in the midday, 7 as there's the crossover, but not more than that. I know I've had extensive conversations about parking. I know that 7 was a lot. I did not reduce it on this, but I know that 7, when looked at by this village, it was said they didn't understand why 7 was actually established in the beginning. I did not reduce it. I know Ron most recently pointed out a mistake with retail. That's existed since 2014. I did correct it. We're still within our parking calculations. To be honest with you, I have no idea how that was on the first one. I don't know how that's calculated. I can't imagine that you would take the square footage and reduce it by all the equipment. But regardless, with the full square footage, we're still within the 18 spots.
So at no time during the day, no matter how it's being run, would you anticipate more than 7 employees working
No, and I would
simultaneously?
tell you, and I wrote in my narrative, and I know it can always change by who you hire, but understand that people like dishwashers and a lot of our counter help are also high school students who, by the way, don't drive themselves because they don't have driver's licenses. And I know you can't do a parking calculation based on that, but right now I would tell you 5 of my predominant employees don't drive. They don't have driver's license. These are not, there's a manager, there are people who are obviously older and more skilled and who have driver's licenses. But counter help and dishwashers for the most part are your 14 to 17-year-old staff. One of my employees who has been with me for 3 years literally just got his license. He leaves in August for college. That will be the end of it. Just to give you, again, I know you can't base parking calculations on driving age.
Okay, and I'm not being picky here, I just want to avoid problems going forward. In your application to Department of Health Services, it indicates existing seating of 16, proposed 16.
Correct, and that, if you look at my narrative, I've answered Ron on that. That is, they do not have an application for what we are doing. When I was given that application, I literally walked through with the guy on the phone.
Right.
He told me this is how you fill it out. If you look on page 1 of the application, it asks me what I want to do, which is to put 8 seats upstairs. The problem is, when it gets to page 2, when it says current seating is 16, proposed seating is still 16. I can't change that. I'm not adding 8 seats. That's otherwise proposed seating would be 23 on that
No,
page.
I guess what I'm saying is right now you have 15.
So health department is 16, you guys did 15, but we proposed 8 and 7 if you look on the plans. So,
No, I understand.
the health department has the same plans
Right,
for
and-
8 and 7.
And the
It's just, it's a 16-seat luncheonette, and to be honest, until we started discussing, we didn't look and see and say, oh, wait a minute, it's actually only 15 on ours, 16 on the health department. My health department license, by the way, on the wall says 16.
Right, okay.
You guys on code say 15.
And I just want and just I want to make sure we're talking about the same
Yes.
plan, because there's a lot of submissions that came in.
But the floor
The first and
plans
second, the
themselves.
first and second floor plans that we've been discussing are A2 and A3 on your
Correct.
plan, first dated March 10th, 2014, revised June 29th of 2023.
I believe so, and I just wanted to look at A3 and A5. I
A3 and
believe.
A5.
A3 and A5. Show the 8 and the 7.
I must have wrote that.
A2 is a title page, does it have any changes to it?
Sorry, folks. It didn't come through, but okay, all right. Okay, I'll open it up to the rest of the board for now for any questions.
Well, I think we're kind of in limbo at this point because until the health department
So, I received correspondence from wastewater management today.
And wastewater
Number
management.
1, on their request, so they requested several things of me, all of which have been submitted today. The problem is, number 1, which is going to be a municipality versus wastewater conversation, and it's not something I, as an applicant, or even my professionals can resolve. Number 1 says, submit a copy of planning board approval from town upon receipt, i.e. July 13th meeting. You don't get approval until they do, and they're requiring it before they do. That is not something, unfortunately, that I can approach. I know different municipalities have different rules. I don't know if they're clear. I did respond to them and tell them that you don't give approval until wastewater. But that's what I'm down to at this point. Everything else, by the way, including SLA, has gone through. We received our SLA approval today. Wastewater sent us to pollution. I have the email from pollution that there's no reason to go to pollution. Yes, we do have a oil tank downstairs. It is the oil tank that fuels our building. It is 250 or less, and it is permitted. The other things they wanted to see was, again, the, sorry, I'm just looking. The site was showing the 8 and the 6, and a letter which I also submitted to you stating, which I submitted to you guys as well, stating the 8 seats and the 7 seats, and that at no given time would there be more than that in between the sunroom and upstairs. I supplied that letter to you as well. But the number 1 on yours and the last number on Ron Hills are in direct opposition of each other. Ron Hills is requesting, which I believe is the norm for this municipality, that I need wastewater, and wastewater is requesting yours. So I have to look to the village to somehow resolve this. In talking with my attorney earlier, I said it's, when we do events, we have grills outside. And the fire marshal will come and say, you can't have a covering over the grill. And the health department will come and say, you have to have a covering over the grill. And we stand back and say, I don't know how I'm supposed to approach that. I don't know how I'm supposed to answer that when you have 2 agencies with conflicting. I don't know if you've ever had to deal with that.
If you could just send us what you got back from wastewater.
I have it here. I have a whole package for you. I also did send them your contact info,
No trouble.
of course. Sorry, but it seemed, but I can leave you with a made a copy. I just have to see what's what here.
If you can submit to us the food permit, there's 2 divisions of the health
I won't
department.
get the food permit until wastewater, but they're ready to sign off. They said,
But both entities, the food control unit and the wastewater management unit, will issue you notices. They're called NOIs. They'll say that, I'm sure there's a bulleted list with numerology that you have in front of you. They must have 10 things on it, or however many there are. I haven't seen it. When that gets down to,
I have an email from food service that says as soon as they get wastewater's approval, they're ready to sign off, or schedule their inspection, I should say, and I can
when
certainly.
you get the notice that says you need nothing but the village approval, we could write a letter in that case that will satisfy that request for her. But we'd like to see the notices with nothing other than just the village approval.
So you're saying it's called an NOI?
You have it right in front of you.
I don't have anything that's called an NOI. Oh, yes, I'm sorry, I'm not looking at abbreviations. Notice of incomplete application?
That's it.
Okay, I've never received one from food service. You're saying I can request one from food service as well?
You submitted one to our file that you received from food service May 20th, 2023. Subsequent, you must have made a
Assuming I
submission.
didn't recognize it as an NOI either, so I will.
This is notice at the top.
What's the date of it?
I believe it's May 20th, 2023.
Okay,
It was in your application submission.
okay.
It's in May 2023.
I will look back so I know what I'm looking for.
And Britton, we had some issues or there were some issues raised with regard to the deck.
Ron Hill and I had comments regarding the deck when it was originally converted from an office building to her current catering use. The second floor was for tenants and for private use for their office and her employees, and that was with the deck. There had been some deck correspondence in the planning board file back in 2014, and so that was sort of a semi-private use, limited use to the tenants and her use and her employees. Now that the second floor is becoming a public use, we felt that the deck was probably incongruous with that. It's going to be hard to monitor that. It's a health department issue. If there's seats out there, there was some evidence in the file that it had been used in that method, and so we felt comfortable suggesting that if the second floor was going to become a publicly used area, that deck use would be discontinued. You could convert that existing door to a window or other, they can make a suggestion how they achieve that, but that was what we
We
felt
have,
comfortable.
if I can answer that, I did send that to you as well. We have now locked it. I did unfortunately, I put in a FOIL request for the police report from this past weekend that showed that Sergeant Kerwin was there. Not only was there was a noise complaint, there was no noise again. He did come upstairs to see if there were people on the deck. Not only was there nobody on the deck, he was informed that it was locked. It was locked when he came, and that it is no longer in use. It is not something we are offering any longer. It is not worth the trouble. I sit out there and whisper because I know that speaking out there will get the police there at 6:30, 7 o'clock, which is not appropriate. But it's not worth it for the occasional person, 1 or 2, that arrives early for a dinner reservation. It doesn't need to be used. As I said in my letter, it is taken out of any advertising and it will not be used any longer. It will go back to its original use, which is my private use. My employees take lunch out there. Pretty much it. occasionally the SAT tutor comes out and joins me.
That's obviously something we would put in any determination if we get that far.
Absolutely go into the covenant.
Yeah, somehow
If the public use was gonna be discontinued, we'd like to see it physically, prevented from using it. So however, that would be the recommendation.
So it's deadbolt from the outside.
However you would like to propose, but it would have to be a physical deterrent.
Can't just be opened up with a key.
Can't just be a key or a lock. If you want public use of the second floor. that would be
It would essentially would have to be inaccessible, I guess, at this point.
So it's deadbolt from the outside since they don't have access to the other side of the building. They wouldn't be able to get out there to open it.
Is that an egress issue?
No, there's no way to get off the deck. The staircase there is the egress.
Well, we could try, I mean, I guess if that's okay, we could try that, and if it don't work, we can, I don't know, if we could leave it open-ended to
For
be
8
revisited.
years.
No, I'm just saying, we always have to be careful,
I know,
because
but for 8 years.
you may not have that building forever, but somebody else may.
Yeah.
And then they come along and they say, we don't want the deadbolt anymore, we're doing something else. We have to have a mechanism to make sure that we can monitor that.
So just for the record, for 8 years, I have said it would not be used by the general public, and I have never used it, but for the general public. I have never allowed customers to come up there. It has always been for their personal use, and for 8 years, there has never been a complaint.
But you haven't had a restaurant up there either.
It's an upstairs deck, everyone knows it's there. I mean, people come to visit, they, friends, but I've never served anybody up there. I've never let anybody take their lunch up there.
So as far as the decks, so we're into just the detail at this point of how everybody would be happy with closing it off. But you would close it off so it's not readily accessible, certainly not.
Without a doubt, I have a door
Okay.
from my office, and that is all I need.
Fair enough.
I'm not certain that this will now get held over again. Is there any way that this board can move ahead contingent on wastewater management? I know you said, the village planner said she wanted those forms.
There's unfortunately, there's no mechanism in the code that allows us to give a conditional or temporary approval until we have all the material that we normally require, health department, et cetera, right?
I think we had this conversation last meeting, too.
It's just,
Yes, except for that was before we were down to the wastewater saying that they needed your approval. And
yeah.
I'm really unclear as to how that's actually the decision made by them, if they're familiar with the municipality, and I have to assume that they are.
I think Britton was suggesting that if you get all of those other items taken care of, even though you wouldn't have technical planning board approval, there would be some communication from the village indicating something to that effect.
Okay, so if I had those NOIs,
You have a notice from food control that says we will issue a permit contingent on wastewater, and you have a memo from wastewater that says we will issue a permit contingent upon the planning board. We would have a confident level that you were gonna get those approvals once we issue it, and we could write that into a determination. And we could get a resolution, but shy of those exactly, with nothing else on them, we can't move forward.
okay,
And you also need that, what you just mentioned about the redesign of the door, right, to the deck.
We need to have a resolution on the deck.
There's 2 doors to the deck, correct?
correct.
I don't think that's on the, I don't know if the
Plan-
one
I don't
in
believe
your
the plans are
office
correct.
shows, like, we're not trying to make it so the deck is completely inaccessible. I think there's a door from your office to the deck, and the door from the top of the stair to the deck.
Yeah.
So I think we're talking about the door at the top of the stair to the deck, which is great.
Correct. I assume.
Stairs to the hallway with the door.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think everybody's trying to prevent you private,
No, I didn't take it that way.
just, we don't want the public being able.
I didn't take it that way at all.
So if you could just,
Eliminating that door, we go miles. One at the top of the stairs.
anybody else on the
Any other
board?
questions? Megan, I'm gonna leave this with you. This
No.
is the latest.
All right, I'm gonna open it up to the public, please, if you have comments, please come up to the podium, name and address. And let's hopefully not repeat too much that we've already heard, if you can.
Put that in. Paper copies. Because this is new. You are first. Ahead of this. I think it's only my second PowerPoint presentation ever. I'm Kim Hildersdorf. I live at 17 Beach Road. I'm trying to figure out how to do this. Let me know. Sorry, you can start unless you need this.
Try number 3, I think is the.
3?
Well, our first slide, when we get there, will be the invitation that some of you have received to come and support this evening. And on that, comment was made that individuals, that would be me and my neighbors, are taking up valuable police time calling in numerous unfounded complaints and taking the police away from more pressing matters. In response to that,
Excuse me, does this have to do with the complaints that we're doing?
Erin got to speak about police as well. It'll be
I just, I appreciate where you're going. We don't need the blow-by-blow of every time the police, I mean,
Not at all.
let's just keep it as relatively briefly as it can. Again, I want to give a little latitude here, but I want to keep it focused on what we're here discussing. And let's just keep it on what's being proposed, how it's going to work, if it's going to work, as opposed to how it's being run and operated. I mean, it's common knowledge what we're dealing with right now, good or ill.
So it's just a statistic.
I don't know if I can get this to work, I don't know. He told me to plug it in here, but they literally finished up as the meeting was starting,
And
sorry.
I'm not trying to keep you from having your say, but you had a lot of time to say a lot of things last time,
I'm
and
trying to keep the words to a
I-
minimum and use some pictures instead to convey.
I don't know if the pictures are gonna work.
I can't get that laptop to show on the screen. I don't know, that's.
It's supposed to be number 3, but it's not showing.
I think that's a sign.
I hear people mumbling comments in the background. You guys can't. You really can't. And just so you know, it's on the record, everything that's heard. Southampton Press is asking us for the meeting already, so if it's not something you feel comfortable saying in public, please just, I think we can all just keep our comments to ourselves. It's not a sign, it's unfortunate. We spend a lot of money upgrading this meeting system so people don't have to come here in public. But I can't get the power.
Okay. Fine, so I will read from the slides and then I'll.
I don't know how to get your laptop plugged into this.
I could put it up there on the.
Oh, you can
dais.
plug into that, to that one. Doing that on number 4. But let's put that in our notes, Brad.
Yeah, we have to figure out how to get
Why it's
this
this.
one up on the screen.
So, what?
Well, so in the meantime, just a quick statistic, of the 17 calls made to the West Hampton Beach Police Department, only 4 were not corroborated by the responding officer. And when Erin brought these issues up to Trustee Brian Tiemann via text message on May 27, he told her, and I quote, "You know that the argument is going to be that you had the choice to not operate until it's approved." And similarly, a representative of the police department stated that my recommendation is to cease operating until all codes and laws are complied with. Then there are no complaints about net or visits.
I'm gonna open it. How do I get it up there?
So you plug in, there's a thing right up top there.
We're discussing violations after you said specific.
we're done with that.
That's it.
Yeah, I want to focus, only because you mentioned
That's it. I just
briefly,
wanted-
we're done with
because
that.
they were
We're
unfounded.
moving on,
That's all.
moving on to the plan.
Yeah, I have it on 4. There we go.
Oh, yay, there we are. All right, very good. No, good. That's perfect. So, and then also in that invitation, it discussed this as being a business district, and it is actually, in fact, the Hamlet Commercial. So, the yellow indicated on the map is the only Hamlet Commercial that we have here in the village. And as you'll notice, most of it rings the red business district, and it has been intended to be a buffer or transition zone. So it's supposed to be lighter use and a little bit more restrictive than the red downtown business district. And within this Hamlet Commercial, the yellow shaded area, there are 2 food service businesses. This one and Tres Diamantes out on Montauk Highway. And that is the aerial of Tres Diamantes. We have something like 160 feet to this neighbor and 170 to this one. They have a huge parking lot. They have absolutely no outdoor dining. I didn't post our homes because this is very public. But from my home to the business in question is 60 feet, and to the girls it's 90, so we're much closer. So comparing the only 2 food services right now in Hamlet Commercial. This is very different from anything that's happening on Main Street. And we're calling it a 15-seat luncheon. And this is the seating diagram showing 15 seats in the sunroom that was submitted back in 2016. And this, in reality, is what it is. It is 23 seats inside the sunroom. And this is from a 2019 Zillow listing, which was publicly available just prior to the meeting. And if you're questioning whether or not these two chairs are here, here is another angle. So the current submission shows that that's going to come down to 7 seats. I don't know how we would permanently restrict that. Stop work order and everything. We've been going through 8 weeks of whatever at this location. I don't know how in the future this would be accomplished, how you would segregate out the other 8 seats, because I have a feeling they would just migrate right back.
I know where you're going with this, and unfortunately, I've been told more times than I care to remember over the years that the planning board cannot plan based upon fears that the plan will be violated. All we can do is plan, say, this is what it is, this is what you're supposed to do, and if you violate it, then you have trouble. I appreciate what you're saying.
Right.
I appreciate what you're
Knowing
saying.
anybody was violating it, you would never know. And as you discussed, there may be future owners who
Would
do
have
other
to
things.
abide by the same site plan.
Right, and I think it was Mr. Hill had made a suggestion of somehow segregating the area to permanently remove the ability to bring seating back. But
Well, that's why I was very specific in my questioning of the applicant. I wanted to be very clear what we're discussing here, that there will be 7 down, 8 up. That's all there will ever be. They won't migrate up, they won't migrate down. That's what it's gonna be. And that's what, if we get to that point, would be what this board considers. So I appreciate your fears that it might be violated, but unfortunately, we can't really consider that in our, and in terms of intensity, I mean, again, it's the same problem. I mean, we have 15 seats that are approved. It's still gonna be 15 seats, but, you know, how that works in practice, I don't know.
so in practice as well, how does this is also what the space is used for. This is not 15 seats. This is not even limited to the 21 seats outside. This is a large party that was held the night after we were here last, out on the front lawn, while the sushi was continuing upstairs. So there is no swapping or trading or switching. It's all uses at once, is our contention. And this is the same party that carried on till about 11 o'clock at night, the daytime one, people were just arriving, and this was later in the evening, pretty sizable crowd. There is actually volume on this. Wasn't too noisy, but still, this seems to be a little large for a 15-seat luncheonette. So back to the space in question, the new venture. So this is the office back in 2019, which was discussed as a tasting room, and Erin claims that, let me see. Sorry. Nope, it's on the next one. So this is the office as it was before, and this is what it looks like now from the same angle. Again, the other direction, and now some pretty drastic changes. So this was an office, it is now a restaurant open to the public, as we've established. It's been advertised before as a former private dining room. This was never a dining room, it was a children's bedroom, storage, office, never a dining room. And then she here is saying that there was never a rule about her having 6 clients up there to do a tasting in her office, so why would it be any different now? And I feel that the difference now is that it's a lot more than 6 people once a week. Now it's 3 seatings of 8 to 10, plus from 4 employees, for a total of 28 to 34 people, 4 days a week. That's a lot more, significant. This is the floor plan of that area, showing the 8 seats at the sushi bar. And this is a Newsday article from July 12th, where the reporter was at West Hampton Beach, one of West Hampton Beach is one of 15 locations by Sushi by Boo. There are 3 seatings a night, as I said, and they came with a group of 10. So it's more than 8. Just like downstairs is 15, but it's really 23. And then the 4 employees, we have someone pouring beer, making sushi, I'm not sure what they're doing, and then there's a 4th employee here. The application to wastewater management is inaccurate. In that application, it states, please understand that there is no food preparation taking place in this space. This is a industrial sized rice cooker, and that's a torch. And then it also says that everything being used in this space is disposable. And again, there's glassware, there's bowls, lots of ceramic serving platters and that sort of thing. So also not true. So back to this is a diagram of the existing deck, which doesn't show any seating. And this is the deck as of 2019. I understand the layout may have changed, but I do believe that the blue sofas are still there. And if I can clearly hear every word of every conversation that happens up there from my bathroom, the reverse applies. They can hear me. Conversations in my home, definitely conversations in my backyard. So the public being allowed to be up there is robbing me or my neighbors of our privacy. So we would have to curtail outdoor conversations because we don't know who. You know, it's not like our neighbors who live next door to us for years and years and it's 2 people. It's anybody and everybody. I have to watch what I would say. So that's disturbing, and I'm very pleased to hear that we would be limiting that public access. And I would really want to see that done permanently. Again, future owners, future ideas going on up here. Who knows what comes in the future? And so I have no issues with the existing parking calculations, but I propose that the sushi is in addition to, not a swap, not a curtailing of downstairs. I have a feeling this is going to be both uses all at once. So I'm saying that this is in addition to, and math works out that the sushi seating is actually 10, and that would be 4 parking spaces. The sushi employees are 4, as we saw, and as was discussed at the last meeting. So that requires 8 parking spaces to cover that. And the original 16 for downstairs equals 24, and there are 18 spaces provided currently. So additional 6 spaces would be needed. And I would like to discuss, in this photo, there are 5 other seats for congregating, as well as how many people would be on the roof deck. So I don't know if parking would need to be accommodated for those people, but by my thinking, this needs a lot more parking than is there already.
Would those couches, if you will, have to be shown on the floor plan?
Not if they're private deck for private use.
No, not the ones that, we just go back to the slide you were at just before this. Looks like it's in the dining area, that one.
Yeah, I believe Ron will address that in his memo.
Okay.
Any places for seating needs to be shown.
Okay.
I have a question regarding the photos. May I ask?
One second.
We skipped one. Sorry about that. So behind the concept for Sushi Suite is Michael Sineski, a West Hampton resident and the founder of Simple Venue, a restaurant group that specializes in turning underutilized, underperforming spaces into fine traditional food, whatevers. And then also he says that Simple Venue operates as more of a partner and a consultant with the space owner than as a leaseholder, and that this model frees his 250-person company to create a fun, crazy experience across the country. And then also to quote Erin from her wastewater management application, she's asking them, says, I would ask that you consider this arrangement as you would a strip mall with different tenants and different uses. It is no different, and even though it encompasses 2 floors, this office suite, whatever. So, is this Sushi by Boo? Is this the Simple Venue? Is it Sushi's Tailor Suite? Whatever this space is, it is definitely not Sushi's Tailor-Made Cuisine. I feel that this is a separate commercial use, not part of the same. And in conclusion, The sushi suite is obviously a new and separate commercial use on top of the existing catering kitchen and luncheonette for a total of 3 commercial uses on a lot of 2,100 square feet. That means incessant use of the property from which we never have relief, and this is too intense for the location. The swapping or elimination of seats is impossible to enforce, evidenced by our experience over the past 8 weeks. We ask the board not to approve this application.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Ms. Finley, do you wish
I'm
to
not
respond?
going to go through that slide by slide or question by question. I am going to address several of the key points at the end. I do have a management contract, not for operating, but for marketing and consulting with the parent's company. It is my restaurant, it is my use, everything is prepped in my kitchen. And by the way, plating is not considered preparation from the health department standpoint. They are aware that we prep in there, that we plate in there. They are aware that we bring up things in, I'm gonna get the name of it wrong. Joe, are you here? What's the name of that box?
Bento?
No, it's not a bento box. I put it in my paper. Yeah, it has a name, and I actually explained that in one of that. Everything in that is what went to the health department. Everything is pre-done based on the reservations. Everything is brought up, sliced, and prepared. Plating is not considered preparation, and the health department is fine with it. The glasses that you see, if you would all like to inspect them, I know several of my friends have used them before, are plastic, disposable, ordered by the caseload on Amazon at quite an expense. Yes, they look like glass. That's why we use them. They're not disposable. People look at them and say, what, I'm supposed to throw it away? But you do. That is what we use. Platters, by the way, are permitted to be washed in a 3-compartment sink, of which we have in the downstairs kitchen. You cannot plate on real, but you may put a disposable on those little glass platters, and that is 100% permitted. Just like the platters in my case. They are reused, they are washed in a 3-compartment sink, no dishwasher required. And lastly, the strip mall was taken entirely out of context. The conversation with wastewater was when he said, I'm not sure how I have to look at this because you have 2 separate entrances, you have tenants on one side of their offices, and you now have this. He said, usually the only time that we designate separate uses in the building, because he originally was like, I think I have to look, I'm not sure if I have to look at everything now as wet use upstairs. He said, the only time that we delineate is when it's a strip mall and you have a wet use and a non-wet use. And he said, I'm not sure how to approach this because it's 2 stories now. Now I have to go and talk to my boss and find out, do I have to look at the whole upstairs or can I treat it like you would a strip mall with different units being wet and not? And it was resolved that he could, and that is the only strip mall reference in my letter to him that you took entirely out of context.
All right.
Chair,
We got-
all these issues are not really planning.
Yeah, these are
He
really,
presents the food permit and the wastewater management approval, who are the people that deal with it.
And I would agree. But I'm also not going to answer again that we attacked last time. So I am going to answer some of the concise. The others are not even worth my while to address.
does anybody else wish to be heard? Please come up to the podium, your name, your address.
Good evening, my name is Benay, B-E-N-A-Y.
D-I-G-I-A. I live at 8582 Road in West Hampton Beach.
I'm sitting here listening to the comments. I'm shocked, to be honest. I don't know if anyone remembers during COVID, when many of us lived here for months. My permanent address is in the city, but I lived here for almost a year during COVID. There was only one place in our town that took care of our community. That lady and her husband. 7 days a week. Does everyone forget that? She did that for our community. I didn't forget that because I was so thankful that she was there for us. On another point, how many of us have parties on our decks in the summer? Do you not hear your neighbors? I have to tell my son, lower the music a little. Not nice for the neighbors. That's what we do. It's summertime. We have company. That's the whole point of having a summer house. So yes, you might hear people speaking. I do not believe there's music or it's dinner music. My music and my summer parties are not dinner music. They're loud. And my neighbor tells me she enjoys it. Today is Thursday. This past Tuesday, I had dinner with my son on the Bowery in New York City in a strictly omakase restaurant called Yoshino. You might have heard of it. There are 10 seats only. We created a reservation. My son cleared at 8:30 when I'm usually in bed, but I said, yeah, I'm coming. It is $500 a person. This was a thank you for the point of telling you this. Nobody talks except you're talking maybe to the person next to you because you're constantly just being fed at omakase. One piece of sushi or fish at a time. You're looking, you're eating. This is a very elegant, a very special type of dinner. This is not like going to a sushi restaurant. There's nothing like that if you haven't been. I came up here because I understand somebody might live next door, but from being a customer for many years, I've never had an issue ever getting a parking spot, daytime, later in the day, if I'm picking up catering. I've never had a problem. There's always parking. It's very maintained. And I feel in our town, we're trying to improve our town, the streets, the sidewalks, new restaurants. We have the most beautiful town that I've seen since I'm living here. And if we want to maintain it at a certain level, as opposed to having a burger joint, she's escalating the town. It brings a new clientele, a different type of clientele. Not the person coming in your beach shorts and your tank top. That's not who she's catering to. And I think we need to help and support her for what she's trying to do. That's what I wanted to say.
Thank you for your comments, appreciate it. Does anybody else wish to be heard at this time?
You know,
Okay.
my name is Lara Ross, Laraross. I live at 32 Jessup Ave in Quogue. Super quick, my husband smiled when that lady said the name of the restaurant because my husband and my son are obsessed with omakase. It's the quietest dining experience ever, and people are weirdly obsessed with the food, and they actually don't really interact much with each other either. That's neither here nor there. Erin has been, I find her to be one of the feistiest, most wonderful people. My children have known her since they were born. I love that our town looks as good as it does, and I love that someone has brought something to us and we don't ever have to drive anywhere. Like, it used to be that everybody didn't want to be in West Hampton, and now I had a friend come from England who's never been to the Hamptons. He went from Montauk back to us in Quogue, and he goes, this is the best place. There's something to be said for somebody adding something that we never had before. And I know, like, listen, I have teenage boys, my neighbors, I have to literally not only say keep it down, but don't say those words out loud. So I appreciate that you want privacy, but I also, sadly, I can't afford more land, so I have to just be careful of what I say and also be respectful of who's around me. I'm a huge fan. I want everybody to get along, but I also think this is somehow becoming spoken of as something it's not. So, Erin, I appreciate it.
Thank you. Does anybody else wish to be heard? Come on up.
Your name and address, sir.
So I'm Deirdre DeVita, D-E-I-R-D-R-E, I have been a resident of the area for almost 20 years now. And when I arrived here, which was in February, a really snowy winter, Main Street was a, tumbleweed landscape with two bright lights on. Simon's Bakery with the gingerbread house making and always open to the public, and Aaron's shop. I had an office across the street from there for 13 years and had my lunch there every day. And I found that then she was enhancing our world. I was so pleased when she was able to move to our current location and take it to the next level. I just want to add to the voices that say, this is exactly what we've cherished and needed all this time. And if something is being approached as of right within zoning, whatever the proper term is, and is permitted in a commercially zoned area, I don't understand why it would not be welcome. And I understand too that I have neighbors, I have a very small lot, neighbors in close proximity. I can hear every word they say from their deck, they can hear me too. But we're friendly neighbors and we recognize this as part of living where we do. So I just wanted to thank you, Aaron, for all you brought to our town. I agree, as the others have noted, that the more that we add to our village, the richer we all become in every way. So wanted to add my vote on that front.
Thank you, Deirdre. I hesitate to ask, does anybody else want to be heard? No? All right, Aaron, I think the ball's in your court. You got to get those two things to the village planner and to the building inspector, and then we can move from that point on. Until then, we're kind of where we're at right now. Okay?
Have them by Monday.
With you, I would never say never. Okay, nothing else? Thank you all. We're gonna.
Hold on, I'm sorry. I thought we were supposed to be called up, but we're called Costco, we just had to get on seating.
You're on the agenda.
Okay.
Just finishing this one.
Oh, that's my fault, okay, but it was just missing everyone,
Just-
sorry.
I just want to take like a minute or two so the crowd can thin out.
Thank you, I appreciate it. I thought it was just missing everyone. That one is on us. Yes, much more.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
All right, so up next, Seafield Center. Ballet, that's you, come on up.
How we doing?
Can you just state your name, please?
John Gonzalez, here on behalf of Brian Monahan from Tech LA on the seafront. Kind of wondering where we were going with that and how we were looking to move forward with renting out the lot days of the week so that we could offer our services here in West Hampton Beach.
I'm puzzled by this one. Aren't we talking two different uses on the same property? How's this working?
Okay, so not that I want to make the presentation, but
I just want to know how under our code this is.
so parking has been a big issue. The trustees are actively doing a parking study. We're trying to somehow make it work on these busy Saturdays, Fridays and Saturdays. So the village, the trustees, they talked with this Czech Ballet. Was interested in coming to the village. I think they're operating in Patchogue right now. They want to try to see if they can help run a ballet operation out of here.
Alleviate the congestion of parking lots and people driving around.
There's a whole bunch of good reasons. People are okay with the concept. The problem is where do you actually take the cars? For insurance purposes, for them, they really need to have a one site. They can't just drive it and leave it on the street. They have to have it at one site, either bring the car back or whatever their operation is. But looking around, the village didn't want to cordon off a village municipal parking lots.
No.
That wouldn't be right. We
No.
can't say, we can't lose street parking either. So the principals of Jack Valet reached out to a bunch of other large parking lot holders within the village and talked with the Epleys over at the Seafield Center. And I don't know if you remember when they purchased the property on the on the southeast corner.
Yeah.
Incorporated in their site, it was a large parking
Yeah.
expansion. So the Epleys I think we have something in writing.
We do, yeah.
Yeah. So they don't really need it Friday night, Saturday, Sunday. I think they've attested to that. So what we were trying to do when we talked to Tony about it was to make this official. Seafield's parking lot is only for Seafield's use. But there's a potential to where this board could see to a waiver to allow these folks to use that unused parking at times when Seafield is closed and not using the parking.
And like I said, my only concern is not not the plan itself, but, are we opening up a door here for other people to come and say, well, you have two uses there, I want two uses, and I think we need something from somebody who decide, that has nothing to do with you, by the way. This is an intramural discussion. It's just, I'm just concerned that we.
I'm sharing parking, I think, is well within planning board's purview, but I appreciate what you're saying.
Because it opens a crack and some ingenious fellow with a law degree is gonna say, well, why can't I do this?
Well, and the village culpability, liability, to being the agency that precipitates this. Do we have a legal exposure?
That's why it would be on a private entity's parking lot, a private business, and they can work out their agreement and insurances. The village is
A facilitator.
supportive of the operation.
But it's
Well, we won't object to it. Is that the way we could term it?
We're not owners, there's no benefit financially to anyone in the village other than there's a benefit to our visitors and residents potentially that they could use their services. I mean, if it is questionable, we're not sure, we could even talk about like a seasonal or like.
That's what I was gonna say, I mean, it's gonna be only Friday, Saturday, Sunday, right?
I don't know if the application actually.
As of right now, mainly Fridays and Saturdays from say about 4:30, 5 o'clock on, because that's when we do reservations. Most people have their dinner reservations are starting around that time. So.
What time does Seafield close for like?
This became a very busy meeting, but I think originally when we wanted one of the athletes here to go on the record.
I mean, they always have staff there, obviously, but I mean.
So this part, I asked that question, Brad. I asked Zach. This is their offices, where they operate their offices out of, and they
On
close
the
at
corner
4.
building.
They close at 4.
So
Okay.
that's why we put on their application 4:30.
No, I get it.
Where would you have the valets?
Valets, what we come to your location at whatever restaurant that you made a reservation at, and then we end up having your car taken from the location to the parking lot structure. And then once you're done with your meal, you end up messaging us, and then we bring your car back to you.
I like it.
So you don't have any interaction with the owner of the restaurant? It's strictly
We
between...
can build relationships with the owners of the restaurant.
How is
such as we did
it,
in Badger.
how are you setting this up now? It's strictly between the client who's the driver and your company?
As of right now, we have relationships with the bars and businesses in Patchogue that they also offer our services. If you call to do a reservation, they will offer our service as well to make a reservation with us at that time. Or we have on our website, you can go on and you can request a time for whenever you have a reservation. Say you have a reservation at 8 o'clock, you make a 7:50 reservation for the valet company, and we make sure that we're there for you and we take your car.
All right,
So
so
we
you
don't
don't-
have to actually have a partnership with the
But-
restaurants, but
it
we prefer
sounds,
one.
it sounds like you're going to solicit through the different, let's say, the different restaurants that they could offer valet service. That's what I'm
Yes.
hearing. Also.
In a way, yes. And we're gonna offer it to obviously everyone. It's open to anyone and everyone that is eligible of our company. But yet at the same point, the businesses, if they like the idea, they can participate alongside us and work with us.
Are we thinking May 1 through September 30, or, I mean, I don't think it would be something we'd want year-round.
Yeah, out here I think would definitely be a seasonal thing.
Yeah, that's what, but,
Here, the outdoors, tables and chairs.
yeah, probably.
We could even just do it 1 year, just so we're not affecting Seafield site plan for forever.
I think it would have to be renewable, because, I mean, if Seafield comes back and says, we want to do X, Y, and Z, but that's obviously something they
That's
would,
something that we
that's
have
something
to
they would work out with them
This way
anyways.
we could put a date on it, it's a sunset, if there is issue or we find that,
Yeah.
hey, where's their parking all over the place over there? And
So is this something we have to kick back to the trustees, or they just want a letter from us, or they want a
No.
modification of site plan? I mean, I don't know what they're looking for.
There's a waiver.
Our attorney, just so that we don't have a conflict with an approved site plan, said something should come before this board that you're aware and at least not objectionable to.
So we could send our normal
Because
letter of no objection back.
exactly what you were saying.
There's nothing to go to them, this is a waiver of site plan.
Okay, so we just, no objection,
It's
but
a-
recommend that there be a 1 year and that it be limited
You
in
can have
time.
Anthony render that in a decision.
Yeah,
Right.
Your point was well
For the
taken.
waiver.
If their agreement was with Lidl, but no, that doesn't work. They're open,
yeah,
But Seafield is kind of special in terms of. that.
that's all I wanted. I just was very concerned that we're opening the door to multiple uses on the same property, which is something we obviously don't want to do.
Public is not going to Seafield.
Right. And it's not, again, it's obvious what you're saying, but it's not like somebody's pulling up to the parking lot, dropping the keys and walking. It's less of a parking garage than a valet service, like you said. I don't.
You know, it actually unloads, it sounds like it's a benefit to taking cars off the street.
Yeah,
Absolutely, yeah.
So that's,
We're actually doing that right now, actually why Brian is not here and I am is because we have a live after 5 in Patchogue right now. So we have our lots that we're taking care of right now down there.
So does Anthony have to address, we'll just do a quick resolution.
I'd like to have Anthony's input on this and hear
It's
it.
important for the attorney to okay this particular waiver, not to make a big deal.
No, so I think he could draft, I mean, based upon our comments, I'm sure he could draft a resolution.
Yeah, we'll have.
We'll get it before the next meeting and we can see if there's anything. But the concept itself, I don't think anybody has an issue with up here, so that's for sure.
So there's no drawings, no
There is a-
boundaries
There is a boundary within the circle.
within the parking
I
lot,
think
yeah.
it's in your application, you
Yeah.
highlighted just like a yellow area,
Just
Zach
like-
Epley and Mark Epley said that area was what their area was using, I'm sure you guys will use like cones. In Patchogue,
yeah.
they use like a orange like type of cone thing, so you know you can't pull in there.
Yeah.
They have signs and all.
Trying to make them all puzzles.
I don't see any reason why Anthony can't get
So my
this
next meeting.
together.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean,
That's- I'm sure seems like a fairly quick resolution. All right. Come back next meeting, we might have a resolution for you. We'll hold it over anticipation of a resolution for the next meeting.
I make a motion.
second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you, sir.
Thank
Have a
you very
lovely
much.
day.
Appreciate your time.
149 Main Street, Flora. Trustee.
Everybody's here. We'll move on, Haskell Seafood, you're here?
Yes.
Okay. Sure, come on up.
I'm Peter Haskell of Haskell Seafood, and had submitted follow-up photographs as well as some dialogue and a survey plan for the request.
By my count, you're proposing 28 seats,
The total number altogether is
26. I added up wrong.
the amount allowed, so there would be 3 cafe tables in the front, which would be 6 seats, 5 2-seat cafe tables in the back, which is 10, so we're up to 16, plus 12, that includes the 3 four-tops.
Because your application had 28 and it's crossed off for 26.
Give me a moment. I know that we were approaching this as the allowable
I
amount of
understand.
seats.
I'm just trying to understand what we're talking about here, that's all.
On the application, we have 16 plus 12, so that would be 28 total.
You did a nice job on the photographs.
Thank you.
Hey,
I
your
tried to,
application is good.
Make an impression of the.
Well, you know,
privacy
very,
barrier.
this is probably one of the best
We've seen that.
displays
Yeah.
I've seen in
That's right.
photographs, and I wish everybody would do something like this, because this is very well done.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, there's no ambiguity about what you're proposing.
Trying to be very good.
Yeah. The 5 foot on the sidewalk, I'm assuming that you're familiar with the pictures. This is acceptable, right?
That is in accordance with the new code. Go back to the trustees of the annual thing. This is partially within the right of way, so there'll be an insurance indemnification.
Right, the usual.
But we like the design and the overall look of it. It seems very attractive. He's got the 5 feet, and that would be something that, if this board is okay, you give a recommendation back to the trustees. Just do this renewals.
The only concern, for lack of a better word, is just you have a lot proposed in that back area. That's fine. But you also have a lot of other businesses back there. So I'm just, how is it that you have exclusive use of that particular area? Or are we gonna have other, down the line, somebody else coming back there? That might be more of a private issue in terms of the landlord-tenant relationship, but it just
I can speak to that.
causes me a big, just curious how that works.
Yeah, we have a strong relationship with Mrs. Katz, and for some time that back area was underutilized and in need of some beautification. So working directly with the landowner, we've had a lot of copacetic activity together to make that area used properly. We were connected to the septic this year, and there's ample room for additional people if you would want to allow for that. At this moment in time, there's no other business in our courtyard, if you'd call it that, or complex.
Yeah, that's
that
awesome.
would need to use it. Although we're very welcoming to neighboring businesses if they wanted to sit and have a bite to eat. If people wanted to utilize that space with us, we're friendly of that nature. But the truth of the matter is we have been tasked, I want to use management as a loose word, but I was asked to manage that space properly with proper garbage receptacles to see it flourish the way it has. And at this moment in time, we take on that responsibility as a private one with our landlord and keep good track of things. So
Under your lease,
Yep.
is that deemed a common area to all tenants?
we do pay common charges, which includes,
It's not part of your leasehold, it's not part of your,
No.
it's available to all the tenants in
It would be
common.
available to all tenants, correct?
But I could speak to that because we used to be over there and except I've talked to Ms. Katz, nobody else uses
You
it.
gotta stand up and
And
talk.
I appreciate that, I'm just trying to,
I know, I'm
foreseeing
saying.
problems down the
We used
line.
to try to get people to use that space and we couldn't get it.
I mean,
The juice lady was the only lady who ever used it and it didn't go anywhere, that was it.
Ideally, down the line, if it came to where you had other tenants who would want to use it, if you could all use it jointly and in common, certainly that, almost like a, I don't know what you would call it, but, almost like a food court.
You could, and from photo number 4, I
Yeah,
believe.
I'm looking at
You
that
can
one.
see the depth of the
Yeah.
patio area. You could actually double the amount of tables and chairs that we have quite easily, and possibly then some, but that's not what I'm here to propose.
No, you got a lot of room back there.
Speaking to the future, I feel that there's ample space for others to congregate as well with approval, like we're looking for.
You'd probably hope that other people did.
Are these still seasonal, or are these?
Yeah, we're probably advertising.
So every year?
Yeah. And this is just a referral to the trustees.
Yeah.
The point is, this is a lot of seats for your particular space and use, so that just, because to quote somebody, good design forgives a lot of sins. So because it's so attractive and nice,
So you have no objection?
you don't have an objection. It does go back to the trustees. I'm sure that same thoughts are gonna be shared, like, hey, that's a lot of seats, but since he's become the
Well, as the only one back there, it's not a lot of seats, but if down the line, it would have to be almost like a
But it's
food.
gonna be seasonal, so
Yeah, but I'm just saying, but if there's, somebody else opens up,
they've
they
gotta
wanna
come
do
to
it,
us too.
But they would
That
always
would be a
have
good
to, they would have to
problem.
coordinate the use with the landlord, because it's a common area. And that's the only thing I'm concerned about down the
Yeah,
line.
I believe that that kind of coordination with the landlord for additional tenants in the future would occur, and I'm sure I would be spoken to directly too about that potential, which would then lead to another review here. So I do see it as a moving process if it needs to be.
we're always happy to.
Everybody be good with the letter to go back to the trustees? No objection?
I have no objection.
No.
Nobody has an objection. So you let it go back to the trustees and they'll take care of it from there.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Nice job.
Thank you. Looks good.
Okay, the next one, Meat Pueblito Restaurant, 136 Old Riverhead Road. I don't think anybody's here. We're just asking for 4 tables and 16 chairs.
And they're all underneath that front.
Yeah, they have it under their own property, right? On that
Code
awning.
max is on a 12 though, in the zoning district.
So they got 5 of 2?
Yeah, I didn't see anything on that.
No, it's like, it's a little blocked out. It's not exactly the best thing, but it's like little block out areas in the arches.
14 to 16 chairs. So we should have 12 chairs.
I thought
So we should have 12
town
chairs.
property ended at the tracks.
No.
That parcel's in there.
Just a
I saw,
little,
I was like, oh, I'm
just
surprised.
nudges past, just slightly. It's the funniest thing.
I thought that was Southampton.
I thought it was too. All right,
You can only have 12 chairs.
so we sent it back with a letter of no objection, just noting that they can only have 12, not 14.
And I'm gonna say the same thing when I get
All right.
back.
No objection, no objection.
objection.
We're good.
No.
Picasso,
Picasso, you're up.
you're up.
Hi, I'm Barbara Martorelli. This is Ron Shapley, my husband. We own Picasso, the art studio store. And we're just looking, we have a little alleyway, and we're looking to put 3 two-tops with 2 seats on each. I might have more when I filled out the application. We weren't 100% sure what we were doing, but now we have 2x2 tables.
You have a little plan?
Yeah, I have a picture, but we did give you a plan when we.
Because I was looking, I didn't see it.
But I can show you
I
right
must have-
now how we would be setting it up if you wanna look at the picture.
Well, let me see what
Well,
Dave has.
it's kind of hard to tell just from that schematic. I'm not exactly sure
That's
what
what I'm
this
saying.
is for.
We weren't very good at what I was doing, so we would just, here's the little patio. So here's our door to our store, and then those would be the 3 tables with the 2 chairs at each table.
As an example, I'm just gonna show you something that from the
Yeah, well,
previous.
now I know I could do that. I didn't know
This
at the
is,
time.
I complimented him
Yeah.
because this is a really
Yeah.
great presentation.
Absolutely.
You know?
I did this before we even had the place,
Yeah, okay.
so we didn't know.
No, this is
that's
like
what-
a learning
And we
curve,
don't
huh?
really need anything in the back. So we thought originally we were gonna put tables in the back. Right now, we just want 3 two-top tables in the alleyway.
Do we need to see something similar?
We would like to.
We'd like
I could
to.
print this picture out for you and have all the
Well,
different.
why
if-
don't
you
you
know
have
what?
that picture sent to us by PDF?
Okay.
And if you could just kind of draw in maybe
You
where
wanna
the
take a
tables will
picture
go.
of some of this stuff? Which, you
Yeah, just kind of
take a
what
look
he
at
did.
this and photograph it at your
as best you
leisure.
can.
Okay.
Because this is a great presentation. It's probably one of the best ones I've ever seen.
Take a picture of it, what it looks like, so we know exactly what you're talking about
Okay.
and where they're gonna be. Do you
And
wanna-
if you get that in before the trustees meeting?
when- yeah.
I'm sorry?
When's the next trustees meeting?
We have work session next Wednesday.
Yeah, because that
Okay,
really
here's my
is a
suggestion.
great-
Take a picture of it,
great
get it
idea
to
of what
Megan.
this
Megan,
guy's
shoot
gonna
it
do.
out to us.
So
If
it
anybody
takes
has a
away
beef,
any,
register
like,
your beef.
guesswork.
Nobody
There's no-
beefs,
there's no
letter of
guesswork.
no objection
This
goes
is
back.
exactly what this guy's
Okay.
proposing to do.
I can do that. Yeah, see you tomorrow.
Yeah, because what we'll do is, instead of, we're just gonna kind of short circuit things because of where we are, it's like, you send the picture to Megan, Megan will send it out to the 4 of us. If we don't say anything, the letter of no objection goes to the trustees, we'll just make it easier that way. All right?
Thank you. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Appreciate it.
Mr. Murphy.
Nope, we gotta circle back. Sorry, Jeff.
Ah,
Back up to Flora, 149 Main Street. We're going back up to Flora. Sit down,
They're
Jeff.
not
I'm
here.
not joking.
they're not here.
Okay, you wanna hold them over?
Nah.
No.
It's exactly what they always had. They used to have to stop at their property line. Now with this new code, they can expand. So instead of 20 seats, it's on 24 seats and partially within the right of way. They've been very good about keeping the 5 feet and it looks attractive to the trustees.
I don't know. Yeah. The trustees said 5 feet, right? I don't know. It still seems narrow to me, but whatever. It's not my decision.
I don't think we have an objection to that.
Nah, that's fine. It works pretty well. I haven't really seen any real, pedestrian traffic tie-ups there.
No.
So, letter of no objection. Everybody good?
Oh, good.
Marvelous. Thank you.
Yep.
And now Jeff.
Now, Jeff. No. You're like the crocuses. Every 7 years, here you are. Is it that long? Good God.
Good evening, everybody. We're all having a nice
nice, cool summer.
You know what Ralph's gonna say, right?
Well, this evening's a little bit different. We actually have the property owner here, Avi Sharabani. He can share with you an update on where we are with the tenant and the condition of the property, but not to open up old wounds. Back when we were going through the site plan process, we did have the long discussion about cross access. We did engineer it out. We did have to prepare a cross access easement. Yes, the attorney charged my client a lot of money for that cross access easement. And because,
Bet you did.
and Tony Pasca really redlined it and cost him even more money. But in all seriousness, the point I'm making is that you asked for it as a planner. I fully support cross access. We did it. We got our approval, Kim's down, trying to find a tenant. The building's dilapidated, it's falling apart. You asked for it to be removed. Avi took it down. He asked for continued maintenance of the property. He has. Now, to the degree, I know there's going to be some discussion about that this evening. We're here to talk about that. So if you want more, the property owners.
Yeah, I mean, Jeff, I mean, when it comes to cross-access, I think maybe there were a series of errors made very early on that there wasn't a holistic view of what was going on. That should have been something that we maybe saw 10, 12 years ago. We didn't, so with the benefit of hindsight, we're all geniuses.
But and with the approval of the site to the east of ours, it precludes cross-access. So we can gain 3 more parking spaces.
But we still want to have the ability of the traffic on that parcel and
Everything goes out to Oak.
to exit out to Oak.
Yep. Yep.
So,
No, that remains no matter what.
so I think barring some change that I don't reasonably foresee, I think the concept of through cross access from Oak to Sunset's it's a dead deal right now.
Yep.
It doesn't look like it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Stingy notwithstanding, we're gonna keep trying to have at least from the middle of that, it's half and half go the other way.
Yeah, but the half is gonna be from 133 to Oak Street.
Yeah.
Because Cinderella will never get through our
No.
property. So
Which may be a boon for you.
is there a potential to add parking stalls back in? That's what I'm saying. We will gain 3 more parking stalls.
We could potentially waiver that kind of future date when you get a tenant and a build. Sounds good.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, that's true. I mean, if you could do it in a way where you still have some means of access out to Oak Street from that property,
That's never gonna change.
so,
They connect to Oak Street.
yeah, I mean, you might be able to grab some of that back without affecting the concept of getting back to the west.
The point is the three,
Yeah.
we can waive the
Yeah.
cross access.
And I don't think that would be, that's
Hitting
not even a heavy lift.
No.
No, that's a pretty light lift.
Okay, now let's talk about the condition of
I
the
knew it.
property.
Okay, I'm gonna have Avi come up. How are you?
Good.
Avi Sharabani.
Happy to
And
see
you sat through 2 hours of this. Good
I
God.
It's Megan created it. All the way to the end.
Yeah.
It's okay. I like to hear everything. By the way, you should help that restaurant people, It's very, very tough with the restaurant business. And
She could have been all well on her way if she came to see us in February, but she
No.
didn't.
Let's not touch
um,
this.
let's move on to.
Let's move on.
Let's move on.
Property conditions.
Right, okay. We maintain the property,
No, you don't.
not all the time. So, we took the building down like a year and a half ago when you called me. We took it off. It took a long time to take it out because it was asbestos.
Look, let's give this a haircut. Short and long of it is, people drive by that site all the time. And there's always paper, there's always some debris there, okay? We'd appreciate it if you seriously, consistently maintain it.
Done,
All right,
done, no problem.
end of conversation,
No problem. Okay?
okay?
And to the
I have a couple of tenants now looking into it,
Okay.
And hopefully we'll have a nice building over there.
I mean, I don't know if it's possible or feasible. I mean, if you had some ability, put maybe some, movable landscaping, something, like some pots or something that you
The
maintain.
problem is you're gonna need water.
That's what I'm
you need
saying. It's something that has to be maintained, so.
Unless you put some kind of.
Just
roof
raking it
inside.
consistently.
But if I cut it, if if I cut it and clean it up, it's gonna be clean.
Yeah.
Most of the paper that you see doesn't come from us.
We're not saying it
The rest
does,
of
but
it,
it's still on your property.
Yeah, I know, you're right.
And, we try to improve the visibility of the village. And
I know,
we'd like your help.
And of course.
Okay.
Of course, no
Good,
question.
all we're asking is good faith efforts, not extraordinary, just good faith.
You know what? There's no problem whatsoever.
Thank you.
So what do you want from us, Jefferson?
I don't wanna come here again for extension. I really would like, no, seriously, I would like, I'm working on getting a tenant, hold on. I'm
That's
working
a
on getting a tenant. Now, I don't wanna put a building that's gonna be an eyesore. The tenant that will come there need the building to what he wants. So just to put a building because I have I have.
We're not, sir,
it
we're
doesn't
not
make sense.
asking you to do that. The only reason we've kept this on a little bit of a tight leash has been, we wanted to have that ability to see you periodically if the maintenance wasn't going. If the property was well maintained, we wouldn't have the urge to see you as often. Because that's the only way that we have.
If I told you it's done, it's done.
All right.
The part is gonna be maintained whatsoever, that's it. You're gonna see it next week, clean, and from now on.
We want to see, yes.
From now on a regular basis.
Maintenance schedule.
If,
Alright, so why don't we give him 9 months? That's 3 months longer than a year.
Change the code to 12 months.
Oh, so we gotta give him 12 months. Change the code.
I mean, I don't care if you want me to come again in 6 months, I'll come. See,
Well, apparently
we don't want you
3
to.
hours.
sir,
We don't want you to.
yeah, we don't want to see you. The only reason we've asked you to come back is because we've been
I
dissatisfied.
will.
All right, but according to our esteemed building inspector, we have to give you 12 months.
It's the minimum.
So,
It's gonna be the code.
you are the beneficiary of the change of the law.
Brian has my phone number, he knows where I live.
If there's a
Every
problem,
time he calls.
I know your wife.
Can I have a motion to grant?
I make a motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you very much. We hope you get a tenant very soon.
Can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Move to
I
adjourn.
don't blame you.
So moved. Second, all in favor? Aye.
A little bit longer.
A little at a time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Enjoy your summer. What's left of it anyways. I still can't
You
believe
gonna
it.
close the meeting?
It's closed. We did it when you were talking.
Oh, yeah, you must have.
That's getting her done.